Anyways, onward to the summer Hikaru died. Greg, how are you feeling about this episode?
Lots of background given to us in this episode. Lots of missing puzzle pieces that we can start to connect the dots on what is exactly happening. And I think that's why I have so many notes on this episode.
Okay. I got less of that, but I'm really interested to see what you have to say about it. I just thought this was a good episode. I didn't really delve mentally deep like I normally do. I wasn't like, oh, this is an allegory for this or this. It was very much like a face value episode for me. But I still enjoyed it because I got some questions answered. I also think that this episode is like Blade Runner 2049.
Oh.
And I'll get there later.
Okay. Yeah, I think this is the setup now. So they had in the first episodes 1 through 7, they were giving us the mystery of Hikaru and what's going on. They demonstrated what new Hikaru is, how he doesn't understand emotion or the value of life. And now we have Yoshiki and Tanaka's first interaction in this episode 2. It's kind of setting up the villain arc where Tanaka is going to be some sort of antagonist to Yoshiki and Hikaru. Yes. At least I think anyway.
I agree. Let's get into it.
Episode 8, The Summer Hikaru Died. Yoshiki Googles how to get bloodstains out of white shirts and goes to clean Hikaru's blood-stained stab shirt, and Hikaru is sitting there shirtless. And he's like, man, it looks like we're trying to cover up a murder. And Yoshiki is like, yeah, man. Yeah, kind of are.
Yeah, I did try. I know you're very nonchalant because you're okay, but yeah. This is the allegory for the sex they had last episode that I said.
Oh, okay.
Remember? This. Hopefully our listeners at home don't think I'm psychotic.
Yoshiki says they got to clean this all up before his mom gets home, meaning all of the bodily fluids like stab wounds and blood. Then asks Hikaru how his wound is, and he's like, good as new. And Yoshiki is like, damn, my plan to kill you wouldn't even have worked anyway, and then has a shot of the shirt with just a faint stain of blood now. They sit down, and Yoshiki shows Hikaru what real Hikaru wrote on the note that he pocketed in episode 6. And Hikaru is like, no Nuki-sama. And Yoshiki said that Matsuda was saying that name too. Yoshiki is like, does that mean anything to you? And Hikaru says he can't remember much, but do you think this Nonuki-sama is me? ? And Yoshiki says, no clue, and then looks at his bloody sternum chip that Hikaru gave him. They go to Hikaru's house looking for clues, but all they find was a tub of Gamersups that Hikaru bought from Gamersups.gg, where he used promo code DJ Montague at checkout to save 10% off of his limited edition flavor bloody sternum chip that you can also get at Gamersups.gg using promo code DJ Montague at checkout.
These flavors, they get more ridiculous every single time. Bloody sternum chip. Not a real flavor, but probably could be if Gamer Subs keeps going the direction they're going, which is into insanity. So use my code. Get 10% off. Buy 10 tubs, get one free.
10 sternum chips for the price of one.
Great. Can't wait for you to get those secret powers from your sternum chips.
Yeah, try not to mix too much.
Nah, mix it up. Actually, technically don't mix a lot because it is caffeine. So yeah, unless you get the caffeine-free version, there's a certain amount of caffeine that you're allowed to have a day as a human being.
Don't let people tell you what you can and can't do.
Okay, be careful with your caffeine intake. How about that?
Because
I had a coffee last night and it did nothing, and then I wanted to have a second cup of coffee, and I realized it's because I have ADHD and I'm losing my mind slowly that caffeine doesn't work the same for me.
I must have ADHD too, because I went to the gas station and they had like 3 for $5 monsters, and I drank all 3 in one sitting, and I just went to bed.
Maybe, Greg. Maybe.
But they do go to Hikaru's house, not looking for Gamersups, but looking for clues. But they don't find anything. But then Hikaru's grandpa comes home, and Hikaru is like, hey, Gramps, look at this note. And he hands it to him, and he looks at it. And then he is like, hey, where's Hichi? And Hikaru is like, who? Grandpa said Hikaru needs to return Hichi-san to the mountain. and Hichi-san isn't in their temple anymore. And I wrote here that Hichi-san is probably the shrunken head that he had in his bag and the thing that Tanaka has now.
Oh, 100%.
That's one of the things where we're starting to understand what things are that we didn't know in the beginning of the episode or series. Now we're learning a little bit more indirectly about the Indo ritual and how Hikaru's dad was probably taking this Hichi-san to the mountain and then for some reason bringing it back down because they would hold it in their little temple and then they would have to bring it back to the mountain sometime during the year. And they fucking did it every single year, I guess.
I wonder who Hichi-san is in relation to the family other than being the shrunken head. It's obvious that this village has an affinity. They use a lot of honorifics for these objects and like Nonuki as a god, or as they say later in the episode. So also my reference to not cyberpunk, my reference to, oh my God,
Blade Runner
2049. Spoiler alert, if you've never watched Blade Runner 2049, you absolutely should. I think that Ryan Gosling is so fucking incredible in that movie. I love that movie so much. Basically, you go throughout the entire movie thinking that Ryan Gosling is this special thing that could be this missing piece to an incredibly large puzzle. And you're like, wow, Ryan Gosling is fucking knocking it out of the park. And then at towards the end of the movie, Ryan Gosling finds out that he's nothing but a normal,
just a regular replicant.
He's unsure of what's going on because he is developing emotion at a crazy rate. He starts to lose himself and not understand what is going on anymore. I think that what's happening here is that Monster Hikaru thinks that he's Nonuki-sama right now. I don't think he is. I think he's just there and Nonuki's still on the mountain. That's my opinion.
I see the vision.
Mm-hmm.
Hikaru is like, wait, who is Hichi-san? And Grandpa says someone that had it pretty rough. And if they didn't ask Unuki-san to do all that back then, ... This village, this murder village, long-running curse since way back when. And then he does a classic old guy thing and just falls asleep while sitting up at the doorstep. So he's asleep now. Cuts to Yoshiki.
Quick nap.
Getting to school, and Asako is there in her volleyball attire, and she's like, oh, Yoshiki, you feeling better? While being all coy. Then Yoshiki asks if she's doing okay after what happened, and she's like, well, since that time, my right ear isn't what it used to be. Yoshiki goes wide-eyed, and then we have another POV bang shot, and Yoshiki is like, oh, is that so? And then she's like, Hikaru was acting strange that night, and do you think he was possessed by that evil spirit I was talking about? We get another POV shot of Yoshiki looking at the ground, and all you can see is their shoes. And you can see his right arm with the mark still on it. And he asks, if that were true, would you hate him? And she's like, well, I don't know. And Yoshiki tells her not to hate Hikaru. And she's like, oh shit, you serious? And Yoshiki is like, nah, just joking, in the most unconvincing way possible.
Yeah, this scene is really good for intensity's sake. And the imagery, looking downward, you get the sense of like being in Yoshiki's body and the unease. Because you normally would face somebody when you're talking to them. They're almost next to each other, having this weird, close, but still guarded conversation, as you could see by the difference in like the wood versus the stone. They're on two different levels, speaking about different things, but still speaking about the same thing.
Yoshiki is waiting for Hikaru, and Hikaru walks in and is like, hey, sorry I'm late. And Yoshiki says Asako can't hear out of her right ear anymore. And Hikaru is like, oh, damn.
That sucks, dude.
Might be because I tapped her a little. And with people, even just poking them a little can make them break. He says Asako has a strong mind, so maybe instead of breaking her, I just messed up her ear. And Yoshiki is like, dude, what the fuck? And Hikaru says she's lucky. It's just her ear. And Yoshiki facepalms. In class, Yoshiki is thinking about what Hikaru's grandpa said about a curse, and that it could be a clue to what Hikaru is. And he read a thread online about disturbing place names, and it shows his smartphone, which is still cracked, and it has Kubitachi Village on there. And he thinks, hey, that's weird. Kubitachi uses the character's neck and stand, and he should check the map in the library. He gets some reflection in his eye, and outside is a naked dude with a knife and is just waving at Yoshiki, saying hi. And Yoshiki is like, dude, oh fuck, can't look, don't look at the spirit, don't look at the spirit. But all the kids stand up and run to the window, and Hikaru is like, Yoshiki, that's actually a person. It shows the teachers out there with the capture pole things, but then the dude just stabs himself in the neck. And then it cuts to Yoshiki, Hikaru, and Asako talking. And she says that that person had something inside of him, something possessing him. And she said that's probably how Yuta got hurt the other day. And someone on the baseball team went berserk and got violent.
This show's getting so crazy right now.
Yeah, it did show like a quick scene of Yuta with a sling on.
Yeah.
We get to see that too.
He got hit with a bat, I'm assuming.
Asako was like, Hikaru, are you okay? There's totally something inside of you, just so you know. And Hikaru is like, I'm good. And he's like, maybe I'm immune to evil spirits.
That's crazy that you would say that. You're so weird. You're so funny, Asako. We just watched a guy die out there, and why are we talking about me? What is going on?
Yeah. She's like, why are we talking about me and why Yoshiki's inside of me? It's so crazy.
That's crazy. Marinated chicken, gotta go.
Asako says she's worried about everyone, and there's been a lot more stuff like this happening lately, and it's even made it to school, and there isn't anything she can do about it. Yoshiki is like, what do we do? And Hikaru is like, leave it to me. But then he's like, ow, my arm hurts. And he bumped his arm earlier, and there's a mark. And he says, now it hurts. And then I have a note here that says, probably from ripping out half of himself and giving it to Yoshiki, his regeneration abilities aren't as strong as they used to be. And now he's feeling things that normally he wouldn't feel because he was a stronger version of himself.
My worry is that Hikaru ends up wanting his power back or needing it for some reason. And it becomes like I'm rescinding my vulnerability for this relationship for the fact that I need this power at this moment. So that's my worry.
I think what's going to happen is Hikaru is going to become Pinocchio. He's going to become a real boy. And Hikaru is going to die again.
Yes, I said that last episode.
No, I'm the only one that's ever said that.
Oh, ever?
Yeah.
Okay, my bad.
My completely unique take on this that no one has ever said. But no, I don't think Yoshiki would give his power thing back, nor would I think Hikaru would ask for it.
I think that's going to be the dilemma as well. There's going to be a need for it, and there's going to be a situation where his power... I mean, as the end of the episode we come to see, that exact situation happens to a smaller degree.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a final fight between Hikaru and Tanaka, and they're going to finish each other off, if you know what I mean.
Hell yeah. We're going skiing.
Yoshiki and Hikaru are at the library and pull up a map of Kabogayama from the early Meiji area that covers the whole region, including Kubitachi. And Yoshiki points to a place called Duramaste, and it's what Kibogayama used to be called. And then he points to Kubitachi and said it used to use the neck and cut characters, as opposed to the neck and stand characters it is now. The librarian can overhear them, and Yoshiki is like, don't these maps look like a person? And all the villages are named after body parts. And Daruma might refer to torso. And Hikaru is like, man, that's fucked. And the librarian clears her throat because they're being too loud. Yoshiki says Kubitachi was split into 5 parts at the start of the modern period, and then goes into the history and says it all used to be one big village. Then the librarian rolls up and is like, dude, you're so fucking loud. She's like, are you guys working on homework? And Yoshiki lies and says they're Yama high school students from Kubitachi and wanted to research their hometown. And the librarian is like, oh, I'm from Kubitachi too. And since her mother passed recently, she hadn't returned home in ages. And Hikaru sees her name tag and it says Matsuda. And Hikaru is like, holy shit, are you Matsuda's daughter? And then she mean mugs Hikaru. She's like, yep, I didn't get to see her before she died though. And Hikaru is like, do you know about Nonuki-sama? They go to the library office, and I assume they tell her what happened in episode 1. And she said, oh, my mother said that name after all these years before she died, did she? And says she talked about Nonuki-sama often. And apparently when her mother was young, she snuck into the forest and saw something terrifying and told her to avoid the mountain at all costs. Hikaru is like, so Nonuki is a monster on the mountain? And she's like, no, more like a god that would bless us in exchange for a particular offering. And that's how it used to be anyway. Yoshiki is like, used to be. And she said Nonuki had been worshipped since long before that village split. But after a famine wiped out many of the villagers, it became a cursed god. Hikaru is like, did your mom see Nonuki on the mountain? And that made her go crazy? And Yoshiki is like, man, dude, what the fuck? But she's like, oh, it's okay. And she thinks she became that way after her little sister disappeared on the mountain. And I think we did see a quick cut of this in episode 1 when they were kind of like flashing missing children posts on screen.
Yeah. Okay.
Because she does pull out a photo of her and her little sister
Yeah.
or whatever. So
It is here on stream for everyone to see.
she says when she was in elementary school, her sister went missing on the mountain, and Hikaru is like, oh shit, was it Nonuki-sama's fault? And she says she doubts it, but her mother believed it.
I like how fast Hikaru's just like, yeah, I'm definitely Nonuki-sama. Yeah, that's 100% what happened. Did I do that? Oops, oh, sorry, my bad. I didn't mean to kill literally your entire family, extended and personal. My bad.
He's like, am I Nonuki-sama? I guess I am. That's my name now.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But this particular offering, maybe it's like a Dan-to-Dan sacrificial thing. And you know what? They didn't actually say her sister's name, so maybe her sister is actually Hichi, and that offering was the child offering to the mountain god. And then that scene where Yoshiki saw inside of Hikaru's memories and there was just someone holding a head, maybe that was her little sister.
Greg, you're
I don't
on
know.
to something. I think you're doing great. I think you're doing God's work over here, man. Nonuki-sama's work.
And then that's the thing, there's two gods, right? Or there's two spoken ghosts. You have Nonuki and you have Unuki. I don't know what relationship that those two spirits have with each other, but I assume they're gonna tell us more later on in the series.
Unuki invades Yoshiki's body, and then they have to have like an angel devil duel.
Oh, all on Yoshiki's body.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that tracks. I'm good with that. She said, back then the village was in an uproar about it, but the kids didn't know much about Nonuki-sama. But Takeda and the other kids might have known, and they all grew up together. She's like, oh, maybe ask Takeda's father. He might know something. And Takeda is one of the village elders, by the way. The guy that normally talks to Tanaka, and he's like, this guy's a bum. Fucking doesn't take his shoes off. They leave, and Yoshiki thanks her and says sorry to ask her about all of this since her mom just died. But she's like, you good. She only saw me as her cold-hearted daughter anyway. But now I'm realizing how precious she was to me now that she's gone. Then it has a quick flash to young Hikaru saying the same thing after his dad died. Then Yoshiki looks at Hikaru, and Hikaru also looks sad. Yoshiki and Hikaru walk their bikes back, and Hikaru is like, do you think I'm a cursed god? But Yoshiki doesn't say anything, and Hikaru is like, damn, was I the one that killed all those famine people? Yoshiki stops and is like, do you understand what you did to Matsuda? And he's like, no, I don't understand. But then it flashes to the librarian real quick, and Yoshiki thinks to himself he was dumb that he didn't think she had a family, and people important to her, and then says that death is heavy. Hikaru apologizes, but he's like, why are you apologizing? That doesn't fix anything. And you don't understand, and says, even if you kill someone again, I'll be here and shoulder that sin with you.
So weird, by the way. But like the imagery in this scene, like the setting sun over the mountain, very pretty scene. I loved the cinematography, as they said. The composition and like the location, everything that they do in this show, like them being closer than the last time we seen them standing in this situation where they're at the riverbank. All of this is just like these little moments that I really enjoy with this show.
Yoshiki thinks as he learns more about this Hikaru, it may make more sense that he shouldn't be here, but he's done looking the other way. Cuts to the Takeda household, and Takeda and his wife are eating dinner with the news reporting on the school incident. But the doorbell rings, and it's Tanaka. And Takeda is like, what the fuck are you doing here? But then his dad starts yelling for him, and he's like, this isn't a good time. Tanaka has the sword all wrapped in what looks like talismans and says to give it to his dad. And he's like, man, fuck you. But he takes it. And Tanaka says, think of it as a good luck charm. Cuts to Yoshiki walking at night, thinking that Hikaru got all of his papers mixed up in his bag, just like real Hikaru, and he's going to his house to give them back to him, but passes Tanaka on the way and thinks, oh, that's a new face. He's tall. But then the hamster starts to claw at the cage, and Tanaka stops. He turns and is like, hey, do you live here? Yoshiki is like, yeah. And Tanaka is like, I want to ask you something. And he approaches Yoshiki overbearingly. And he's like, what's a good local souvenir? And Yoshiki is like, what? Shiitake mushrooms, I guess. And Tanaka is like, damn, well, I'm not a fan of shiitake. Doesn't the flavor just linger in your mouth? Tanaka says he's an anthologist, and he's come to study this village. And he's staying at the Mikasa's, and then asks what Yoshiki's name is. And Yoshiki says, Sujinaka. And he's like, oh, okay, cool, thanks. I'll quit being picky and try some of these mushrooms. And then Yoshiki has a stare-off with the hamster. And then it cuts to some weird dream sequence of Yoshiki and Tanaka laughing and AKB48 playing in the background. And he's holding the hamster, and he's like, hey, it's pooping on you. And Yoshiki is like, nah, I'm good, let it poop. Let it go. Let it all out, hamster.
Okay, listen. This scene is incredibly important to the story because it's Yoshiki looks at the hamster and he's like, that's the cutest shit I've ever seen in my entire life. And they probably have a moment where he's like, can I hold your hamster? And Tanaka's like, yeah, I don't give a fuck. And then they have this moment where their guard's down and they're like, ah, this is the coolest fucking hamster I've ever seen in my life. And then they, you know, that's how Tanaka gets in to understand a little bit more about Yoshiki and potentially what he's involved in. Just more time. So Yoshiki fucks up and lets the detective in the house.
Yeah. You can tell that Tanaka's versed in social engineering, where he knows
100%.
like questions to ask someone that might be on their guard to try and break them out of it so he can get the information he needs.
Yep, 100%.
But then it cuts back to reality, and Yoshiki is holding the hamster, and Tanaka says that it's his partner, and he's had him for about 12 years. And Yoshiki is like, well, that can't be. Hamsters live for like 2 to 3. And he's like, this one is special. It's a hammonster. And Yoshiki is like, cool.
Well, that's crazy. Whatever you say, dude.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for letting me hold him. And Tanaka sees the mark on Yoshiki's arm. Tanaka is like, you remind me of my young self. All right, see you later. And then they walk their separate ways. And Tanaka is like, damn, that kid got fucking mixed. And that he's got strong ties to whatever it is. And that mark shows that it has no identity or any emotion. And could it be possible that it's disguised as a human? And then wonders if his hunting dog can sniff it out. But then he gets a call. The call is from the girl from episode 1, and she's like, status report. And he says, case AA-104, investigation underway, and no abnormality found as of yet. and then shows a shot of him with a streetlight behind him, and he's making some weird T scarecrow pose of some sort. Now, I thought this was weird that he said that everything's good to go, no abnormality found, because we know he did find an abnormality when Hikaru and Yoshiki were at the festival and then his barrier got messed up. But for some reason, he's like keeping information from the company. And I'm not sure why yet. I'm not sure what Tanaka's motives are or what he's actually thinking as a character.
So my theory on Tanaka is that he's just a bad employee. He's like very nonchalant about shit. He's like, I'm going to handle this by myself. I'll let you guys know when it's done, basically. Not a bad employee in that he doesn't get the job done, a bad employee in communication. He's like, I don't need you guys to micromanage me. I'll just tell them whatever.
It cuts to the movie theater that Yoshiki and Hikaru were at, and his little bell has a spirit holding it, and it's standing where they were sitting. They've been found out. Cuts to Hikaru and Yoshiki at Restaurant America, home of the American presidential fireworks big dick parfait. And Hikaru is like, I thought we were going to Takeda's place. And why are we here studying? Yoshiki says he's thinking about how to question him while he's studying. And Hikaru is like, you still got that piece of me? The one that I broke off in you? And he's like, yeah, never letting that shit go. And it's in his shirt pocket in a plastic bag. And Hikaru is like, good, don't break that shit. Yoshiki is like, oh shit, it's that important? And Hikaru is like, fucking of course it is. I'm trusting you with my fate, but I doubt it will break anyway. Yoshiki looks up and is like, hey, why did it get so quiet in here? And then they start hearing the ringing of a bell. And Yoshiki can see a headless spirit in the booth in front of him. And then the head appears under the table. And Hikaru is like, Yoshiki, don't move. Hikaru starts calling the spirit over, but then bleeds from his left eye and nose and is like, damn, can't do it. And then Yoshiki starts running with Hikaru and tries to open the front door, but it won't. Hikaru collapses and the spirit is behind them, and it detaches its head and teleports to Yoshiki, and Yoshiki is freaking out. But then Rei claps that spirit's cheeks and is like, hey, you good, Tsujinaka? And that's how the episode ends. But I do want to say that that spirit had the same mannerisms and was also naked, like the naked dude from the school. So I think that what Tanaka is using to try and find Hikaru and stuff is affecting the rest of the village, as well as probably all the other shit.
I like that. That's a good theory.
Because the naked knife dude was just like, bah, 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 bah. He looked like Terrence and Phillip basically, and was just like moving his head up and down or whatever. And then in this final scene before Rei claps the spirit, when the spirit had its head attached, it basically had that same stance and posture as the knife stabbing dude.
I didn't notice that. That's really cool. Okay. Looking back now that I realize, yeah, you're probably right. But I just since the forest incident, I think they're just getting followed around by different spirits. There's probably in my thought process of what's following around all the kids is probably 3 to 4 different spirits. Because they have the situation with the train where Asako saved or said don't cross the train today.
Yeah.
Or don't cross the train tracks today. And then they had the other spirit that Hikaru killed.
Yeah, the neckbreak spirit.
And then they've had another spirit
the hair spirit
as well. The hair spirit. Yeah. So
this one's specifically Tanaka's though, because he has Tanaka's bell. That bell he's holding is that bell that Tanaka had where he cut his hand and then put blood on it and then threw it on the ground from
right.
one or two episodes ago.
Yeah. He threw it next to that small shrine.
Yeah, that he kicked over.
Yes.
The little hamster shrine. He's like, fuck this shrine, and then kicked it.
Okay, yeah. Okay, Greg, you're onto something. All right, this show's so good.
This show actually is really good in terms of storytelling. And
yeah,
I said it before, the details that they put in for everyone to, if you're really keeping an eye on it, you can start to connect the dots and figure out what's going on. And I'm sure it's explained later on in the series, but now I'm just thinking, is Tanaka causing some of this stuff to happen too? Is the utilization of spirits like messing up the fucking village? Is the way that Tanaka said to like use barriers and stuff and he does it his way? How was this all connected? And is Tanaka's way like using other spirits when the company just wants him to fucking like blow shit up? I don't know. There's a lot of things that really get your mind going and speculating on what is actually going on that isn't just taking you into like left field. Like it all makes sense if you put all the pieces together. And maybe it's not true. Maybe some of these are just kind of false positives, but I just think how they are telling this story is like really, really good.
Yeah, 100%. I quite enjoy it, and I've been having fun. I think this show is just such a well done story. I'm excited for the next episode. I had coffee last night, and then I slept for 4 hours, and then I woke up, and then I did some stuff in my video game Warborn, and then I am here now.
Okay.
Yeah, I got to bed at about 6:30, 7 o'clock this morning.
Damn.
Yeah, not my best plan, but my plan nonetheless, apparently.